My name's Sasha Pete, and today I'm joined by an extraordinary gentleman. So if you think about the FFA Hall of Fame, you think of names like Ollerton, Wade, Krinčević, Aboni, Murray, Chipperfield, only to name a few. But we could go on. Zelic, Williams, Schaefer, Blair, Bresciano, Buljovic, and the list goes on and on. But a name that you may not be familiar with is a name of a very dear friend of ours, and his name is Andre Krueger. Now, Andre wasn't born in this country. He was born in Germany in 1960 in Hanover. And I'm joined by a very, very special friend. Andre, welcome to today's conversation.
Hello, how are you?
Fantastic. So, as I said, you're currently joining us from Germany. You were born in Hanover, but please tell us where you live at the moment.
I'm still living in Hanover most of my life. So I'm traveling around, but I'm still here in Hanover. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Since now.
Fantastic. And you were inducted in the Australian Hall of Fame in 2006, when we had the World Cup back in Germany again. But that wasn't the, and we'll get to that in a minute, but that wasn't the first time you watched the Socceroos play in Germany, was it?
The first time was in 1974, of course, the first World Cup here in Germany, and the first time that Australia, the Socceroos, went to one of the biggest sporting events on the planet.
So tell me what was it like growing up in Germany as a 12, 13-year-old boy on the streets when you played football. Who are your friends imitating? I'm guessing Beckenbauer would be one.
Yes, so in Europe, the kids, they are fascinating of football, or what you called in those days soccer. And we played the whole day football, every 3 minutes. And if there's a break in school, we went outside, we played football. And we doesn't need a ground or a grass or a pitch or something. So we played on everywhere, and with stones, with of course balls. And yeah, and we had our kids idols. So we played like Beckenbauer, Gerd Müller, Bobby Moore, and Facchetti, all these big players. In those years around 74, my team was Australia, so we played for the Socceroos. This was very strange because no one knows that Australia is playing football.
Yeah, so that would have been unusual to your friends. So you're a 13 or 14-year-old boy, and you're taking up a fascination with these part-timers who are representing their country on the biggest stage in the world. So how did you find out that? How was it received for yourself, finding out that this team from Australia is going all the way to Germany to play against some of the biggest teams in the world?
So since I was I think a baby, I was always an Australian. I love Australia. I was a fan. I collect everything about Australia. It was very difficult those days because we have not these color magazines and TV shows from far away. So, but my first playing pet was a koala, and I had a little Australian flag when I was 5 or 6 years old, and I put it in my window every day in the morning and down in the afternoon. And it was around 72, 73 that I heard that they are also playing football. Mm-hmm. Of course, you play football in every country, but especially in Australia. But we had no photos, nothing. And it was around 73 that we got the first photos. We saw that they played in yellow, was later gold and green, of course. But And we little kids, I adopted this team. And when I found the first names of players, so one day I said, come on, we are not playing England against Germany or England against Italy. Now we are playing Australia against Germany or England on the streets of Hanover.
Oh, fantastic. So you were looking forward to Australia coming up. You've had a fascination with the Australian culture, and you've obviously you've taken a liking to Australian fascination, and here we are now going to visit your country and play football. And I take it you went to some of the games there, the group games in the '74 World Cup.
Yes. First, when the Socceroos arrived here in Hamburg, they came from a training camp from Switzerland, and I went with my father to Hamburg. They had a training facility close to Hamburg in Oxenstall, and I saw some of the players. And you know, I was 14 years old. 14 years old in those days was younger than today. So I'm standing there with big eyes and watching to these players, and it was great. And I was wearing a little green and gold shirt. It was impossible to buy merchandising stuff, no scarves, no shirts, nothing. And as a kid, you know, I made when I was little, I made my own Australian shirt painted.
Oh my goodness, that is brilliant! And you've got the number 8 on there. So do you remember? So show us the number. Number 3. Oh, Peter Wilson. Okay, Peter Wilson. All right, Captain. And he signed it. How cool is that? You got the Captain Peter Wilson signing your own homemade shirt that you made. Oh, this is special. I love it. So
and it was fantastic for me to see these players, you know. I had the luck to see two of the games they played in Hamburg. It was more difficult to get to the games and to get tickets and all this. But it was, for me, it changed my life totally. From that point on, my life goes a different way.
Wow. That is really impressive that you made your own shirt to wear, and Peter Wilson, obviously, who can forget Captain Socceroo, Peter Wilson, in that '74 side, you know, fantastic defender, age 26 when he makes that squad, say in the prime of his day. I mean, fantastic approach. And so which of the games did you get to watch?
I saw the 2 games in Hamburg is against East Germany and against West Germany.
Okay,
yeah.
So
it was too difficult to go to a Berlin when they played Chile. It was not easy to pass East Germany and all this. It was what I said, a different time.
Okay, so you know, this is when Franz Beckenbauer, also in the prime of his playing, 28 years old. You know, fantastic player. Yes. So West Germany has Franz Beckenbauer. Players like Wimner, Rowski, Netzer, Muller, Gerd Muller. Yeah, so just to name a few, East Germany, Low, Kroes in goal. So, you know, Streich, Duch. Yeah, these are fantastic players. And we've got, obviously, you know, Jack O'Reilly in goal, you know, today, you know, Peter Ollerton, you know, Alston, Gary Manuel, obviously Johnny Warren, you know, Jimmy McKay, Jimmy Rooney, Ray Richards, Manfred Schaefer at the back. But, you know, Doug Usenovich. So all fantastic, you know, Branko Buljevic. You know, so fantastic players. Only just to name a few. I'm sure I've missed some of the boys in the squad, so apologies there, guys. But really, when you look on paper, okay, you can't compare the Aussie squad on paper or what the East Germans and West Germans had, you know, in terms of stature, previous prestige, how much money they were getting paid, the clubs that they were playing for, probably the setup and the professionalism that those boys had. But the one thing that our Aussie boys had is spirit, yeah, the Aussie spirit. So let me ask you, did you get a chance to watch the boys train at all?
Yeah, I went to the training facility, what I said. There was a little bit time to watch. It was a big security around the training facilities with police, and it was not easy, but they are very, very friendly to the people. I was not the only one who's coming to visit. Yeah. And so I know that they later went also to the city and the town of Hamburg and walked around the streets. And so they are very close. It was a different time. Yeah. So not like today.
So
and they trained very professional because the coach was Rasic was very professional, you know.
Yeah. So the one thing that I think Australian spirit, regardless of the generation or where we are, we're very open people. We're very welcoming, and we want to, you know, whenever we travel, we want to engage with others. And obviously, Raleigh, I think, as a tactician, was way ahead of his time and did the boys really proud and how we played those games. So, so what was your opinion about? Obviously, we know the result of what happened in that World Cup. You know, we played tough opposition, and it wasn't easy. Obviously, the 3 games. But I think the boys, looking back on all of those games, they did a respectable job. But how was it received at the time in Germany?
So for the most of the people, it was a big surprise because they heard on that evening when they played the first game, it was the first time that they heard the names. I knew the names before, and they were surprised. The newspapers, you know, in those days they wrote, "Oh, the Kangaroos can play football," and things like this. This was not a bad stories, but Australia was an exotic country and far away. Not like today that you can travel. That nearly everyone made the holidays in Australia. It was different in those days, so that it was far away. And when they started with, they went to some places here at school, signing autographs and this, and the people, they love this. They are very friendly, very open. Other countries or teams just in the training camps, Australia went outside to visit schools and kindergartens and this, and the people, they love that. And then you start with the stories of the Manfred Schäfer, the milkman, and one is working in the mines as a salesman, as a painter, and all this. And then they playing the big shots like the professionals, Germany, East Germany, and all this. And also Chile was on those days a fantastic team. So, and they made some good games, and also the results.
So if you think about the lead up to that '74 World Cup, the boys had pretty respectable results leading into that '74 year. You know, we played Uruguay in Melbourne in April. 0-0 was the score against a pretty decent Uruguayan squad. The second game in Sydney, we banged 2 past them. So you know, we went 2-0 up. So Bart and Ollerton bagged the goals there. Then I would say we had a bit of a hiccup when we went to Indonesia. Indonesia only winning 2-1. I would still say that's we probably could have done a lot more, but we got the result. Obviously scoring twice, and then the Indonesians getting one back. And then we lost to Israel 2-1. So, you know, whether that makes sense. And then that's our lead-up campaign. And then, you know, before you know it, it's June in Hamburg, and obviously we know the result, 2-0. The first goal, you know, first half, you know, respectable, very, very solid. And then the first goal, you know, what do you do in that sort of situation? What was your opinion about how that first goal went in?
Oh, I watched it 1,000 times, and I can't change it. I hope I can change it, but it was very close when they started on the outside. I always told Manfred Schäfer, you had to hit this player, but he passed him, and he said later that he was afraid to get a red card if he cut him. So, and he passed it, and the ball went straight to the goal, and he went in, but Cole Curran tried, and he came just not a half, 20 centimeters too late. I'm sure if this goal, if this ball doesn't go in, they played a draw. This is what I think.
This is now,
because this was one of the best they ever played. They played on that night. They played fantastic.
Yes, I agree. That first game, you know, this is where you need a little bit of luck in a World Cup too. You know what I mean? Where one moment can change a tournament. But, you know, the very respectable, because the way Raleigh set up his team, right, he knew, I think he understood that he was going to take his moments, set up in a way that, you know, we were going to get dominated, but also, can we outrun them? Can we outmuscle them? Can we fight? And then can we hit them on the counter and try and shoot and score? You never know. You're like in the big city. So I think the way he set up the team, I would set up the team exactly the same way if I was coach playing, you know, one of the, you know, biggest countries in the world, East Germany at the time. So that 2-0 result, but very respectable, I think.
Of course, of course. It's a little bit, what you say, you need a little bit more luck, but it was close to a draw. They just, with the luck, it was close to a draw. And in the second game against West Germany, they hit the bar.
Yes.
Or the post, what do you call the post?
Yep.
That will be the first goal in a World Cup. And against Chile, they are very close to win. I don't think that they went in the second round, but they can go out of this World Cup with a draw and a win. And especially if players like Ray Bartz, who missed the World Cup, and Bobby Hoop, at all, it was a fantastic result, and it's for the history. It stands forever. It will be always the first team who went to a World Cup. Yeah,
and the thing is that game against West Germany. You know, it's hard when a couple of goals go in the first half and you go in at half time and you're 2-0 down. It's a different frame, and you're playing arguably one of the top teams in the world, and at halftime you're 2-0 down. So they were just, the quality of that West German side was there. You could see that their boys were a little bit better. But the one thing about the Aussie spirit is we kept fighting even to the last whistle. We didn't stop. And I think you were right. The third game against Chile, I think we had the better of them. You know, it finished 0-0. But, you know, looking back at that game, I felt, you know, like I agree with you. We probably could have gotten a goal or maybe two out of that game and taken the points. But there's one thing those boys, you know, like I said, I'll call them out again: Jack Riley, Doug Uzjanovic, Peter Wilson, Manfred Schäfer, Cole Curran, Ray Richards, Jimmy Rooney, Jimmy McKay, Ernie Campbell, Atia Bunny, Adrian Olsen, Branko Bulovic, Peter Ollerton, Harry Williams, Ray Richards. I don't want to miss anybody, because all these are legends of our games. The boys that get the minutes, even the boys that didn't get minutes, right? So they all deserve a mention. But this was, you know, Ernie Campbell. Sorry,
Meyer, James Milosavljevic, Alan Meyer, Ivo Rudic, who all went to the 22 who went to the World Cup.
Yeah, all 22 of them. So thank you. This is why you're in the Hall of Fame. So people listening, Andre is a key statistician and researcher for the Socceroos, and he spent over, you know, well, I think, you know, I would say 40 years, not 30 years, over 40 years researching the Socceroos. And that's why he can rattle off all these names off the top of his head. So even better than the Aussie. I think so, when it comes to the Socceroos, you're more Aussie than me, Andre. So so obviously very respectable result. Do you have any anything to show us from that World Cup? What did you collect? What was?
Oh, my collection is so big. If I start to show you, I can't stop because I have so much stuff. I'm stopped now to collecting. Okay, if I get something, but not I'm the hunter anymore. But I want to show you. This is my very first Australian photo I got. This is nothing special because you can get this everywhere today.
Yeah.
But this is the first when they saw these players and the names, and then I started as a little boy with just. And this is my own scrapbook when I was 13, 14 years old. You know, I can't show this. This is all handwritten, and I put all the pictures in bad copies, and you know the lineups just in.
Wow, this is handwritten lineups. You wrote that lineup by hand to record it.
Yes, yes. And then later I got these copies, and I found it in different. I brought to all the magazines from Brazil to Argentina, from Chile to East Germany, and all this. But now this is it's nothing special, just the first. But I have so many things, especially the World Cup is for me, of course. Sorry, it's yeah.
Wow, that is a pennant made by the Australian Federation.
Yes.
And it's in your house. It was a 1974 pennant that we gave to the other teams.
Yes, yes.
So how did you get that?
Oh, it's a secret. This is a secret.
Okay, all right.
This is why I use Portuguese.
Okay.
You see, this is a badge I got later from the captain of Australia, Peter Wilson, from his World Cup shirt. And
what? Just wait. He cut off the badge off his own shirt.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Oh my goodness.
You know, I told you it was a different time. He thought, what can I do with a shirt? So he cut off the badge. It's of course a disaster, you know. But yeah. So he said this is the one he was wearing against West Germany.
Wow.
Yeah. This is something special, you know.
This is special. You have. So Peter Wilson got his playing shirt, cut off the badge, and gave it to you. In what year?
He sent it to me.
Sent it to you. In what year did you receive that, Andre?
It was in 1976.
76. So 2 years after. Wow. This is. You know, this is.
They had no special use for this. You know, it was different. No one was asking like today. You know, when you went to the stadium, doesn't matter which game, 100 kids sitting there. Please give me your shirt, give me this, and we want to sell it on eBay. We need it for a function. We need it for this and that. In those days, they had one shirt, and after the game, it was allowed to change, but they had just 3 shirts for changing and not 10 or at halftime. So it's very, very special. And Franz Beckenbauer, he wanted to change his shirt with Franz Beckenbauer after the West German game. But Adrian Alston asked Beckenbauer before the game that he wanted to change. And so no one changed the shirt with Peter Wilson. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And so Peter gave you his emblem. That is a story and a half. I can't believe it. So this is amazing. And for those people, when Andre says he's got too much collection, occasionally he shows his collection online. He's got one of the biggest personal collections of Socceroo memorabilia out of anybody I know. So it is. And when he says he only collects special things now, so I can imagine you've got mountains of items in your collection.
Yes, it's like pennants, many shirts, and I think there was a time that I had the biggest collection outside of Australia, because Raleigh Rasic, of course, he has more. He coached the Socceroos, but I think outside of Australia now there are some other collectors. In Germany, we had another one who's collecting just shirts, fantastic collection. But in those days, I think. When I visited the players, they gave me a lot of stuff, and I had my own ideas. You know, what they never used in those days was the captain armband. You know,
yeah.
And I have these signed by Peter Wilson, Tony Henderson, Johnny Cosmina, Murray Barnes, and Jimmy Rooney, or some people who captained Australia.
Oh wow!
Some special things, and you can touch them, and then. This is amazing, but it's not only the time from '74, also much earlier, because the international games are since 1922. I have somewhere here some old boots from the 30s. There's still the dirt under the boots. Yeah,
you've got boots.
I have a playing ball here from the 30s. It's signed by Ronnie Lord, the goalkeeper from the Olympic team. This is Bobby Bignell. The captain of the Olympic team, and if you see behind here on the wall, there is a photo of the 1956 Olympic team, signed by all the
boys.
And this is something special, because all this, it's not just for collecting. That someone is saying, okay, this is $100 or $500 worth. No, the story. This is the story.
No, that's priceless.
Who kicked it? You know, it's always the story behind something. This is what we have to keep if we talk about history.
Yeah. So, no, I would say that ball there is priceless. You cannot put a price on it.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
In my opinion, in my humble opinion, that ball that you have there, from that, if that was a ball from the time that the boys played with, that is one of a kind and is priceless. You cannot put a price on it.
I can't tell you the game. I can't tell you the game. It's much better if you can say this is from maybe in game in the 50s or. But they kicked against this, played with them. You know, you see this, that most of the old players, they have scarves here, because if the ball is wet, it's like from concrete. It's hard, and if you kick the ball a headbutt, and you get this on your
really, it was the balls were that tough back then, right? Wow.
Yeah, and it's always what I said. What's fascinating today, you have these big football world stars everywhere. They're getting a lot of money, and they have big cars, a lot of girls, and things to tell. But more amazing are the stories from the old time. This is what we have to keep for the kids and for the future, because you know they have nothing. They have to go to work. They work. Some of them they work hard.
Yeah.
In the mines, down under the earth, and after work they cleaned. The buddies went on the train and went to an international and played against England or other. This is amazing. This is so amazing.
Yes, this is.
They have done.
Yeah, this is the Aussie spirit. This is the Aussie spirit. Work all day, then put on your boots, okay, and go and play for your country. That's this is Australia. This is why. If you look historically, we always perform well, and it doesn't matter what sport, okay? Per head of capita, our results in Olympics or other games, it's quite high for our population size. We love sport, and football is no different. Obviously, we love football. The football community loves football, but if you get Aussies and we play marbles, right? We'll try and win at marbles. This is the Aussie spirit. We try and fight and do our best. So tell me. So after the '74 World Cup, you continue your fascination. What was the first time that you came to Australia?
That was in 1978. So it was after the qualification for the next World Cup. It was still a time that you hear nothing special. So I remember in '77 that I went, that I spent the whole night in front of a radio to try to get some results from the qualification group. And there was nearly nothing, just luck that there was one sentence of Australia in a World Cup qualification game. Australia lost in Melbourne against Iran 1-0. That's it.
Yeah.
And it was a shock for me. It's cut my heart in two halves because I know it was over. So I made the decision I have to go to Australia to see some of the people. And I was 17 years old and I started to work on a ship, on a cargo ship. And I went to Hamburg and the ship went to Australia. So in 1978, I came for the first time to Australia. It was for me an unbelievable moment. We arrived in Melbourne and we went to Sydney and Brisbane. I remember when I was the first who stepped on the Australian floor. So everyone knows that I'm an Australian fan on the ship. They called me Skippy. So we arrived on a Sunday and I went straight to see a football game. I went to Western Suburbs against Brisbane City and I saw Marconi playing. And then I was in this stadium with, at that time, small crowds. And I was standing there and I saw Jimmy Rooney, Peter Wilson, and all this. And I went to the players and said, "Hey, Mr. Wilson, do you remember me? I was 74, I was in the World Cup." He said, "No, I can't." But that was the point where everything started. So
yeah,
to get closer to people.
So, but you had the passion to go up to Peter Wilson and say, you know, I watched you 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago so it's 1978, 79, you're saying, and 4 years ago I saw you play in the World Cup and now I'm here and I'm watching you play in a local game. Fantastic. What a story.
It was a fantastic moment. I'd never forget things like that. It was in Dural. It was in far away from a part of Sydney when they played Western Suburbs against Brisbane City. And I looked on a map and it was just a little bit. And I started to drive with a taxi. And then they said, "Oh no, this is too far. We are driving 1 hour. You have to go by train." And I went to train and I walked and I walked. And I arrived late because it was outside. I didn't recognize how big Sydney was. And then I came in and it was short before the halftime. And I saw Peter Wilson there and he was full of dirt because he tackled everyone and he crashed everyone. And so he walked into the dressing room and I stand in front of him and said, "Stop, please stop. My name is Andre, I'm from Germany. Do you remember me?" And he said, "No." And I said, "I need a photo from you." And he was standing, I still have this photo full of dirt, and he said, "Yes." So later he gave me some stuff. And that was when we started with later emails, telephone, and all this. And so this was the moment where I said, "No,
this is your first now conversation with a player, obviously a World Cup star, Aussie star, and your first real entrance into the world of the Socceroos, right? So we know how this story develops, and then how often would you come back? Like, how often would you come back to Australia to have this relationship with the boys? Now
today it's 17 times, 17.
Wow.
17 times I went to Australia. And normally I'm now in Australia if we had not this virus, because on Monday and yesterday there was a meeting with some of these old players, and that was my wish to together with them. But it is. So it's 17 times to some different just holidays, of course, but just to visit. But some of them they came also to Hanover. So Raleigh was here a few times. I saw Manfred Schäfer and some others here, and we made trips here. And it's good. I went to all the players.
So
and one of the people in 2013 when there was the 40th anniversary of the qualification. We went to Hong Kong. I came with my wife to Hong Kong. And I met with them, and that was amazing because I got a call. We are in a hotel room, and I got a call. "Oh, there are some people who want to see you." And I went down to the lobby, and all the Socceroos are sitting there. I said, Andre, is, you know, it put always tears in my eyes, you know.
Yeah.
And then I have these photos. I'm always standing a little bit because they are the heroes, and they always come on the photo, Andre. You are one of us, and yeah. And especially is yeah, all the I'm very close to Manfred Schäfer, to Jimmy Fraser, to Adrian Olsen, Ati Aboni, fantastic, Jimmy Rooney, unbelievable, Bobby Hook, and Ray Bartz, Cole Curran. I can't name all these, and of course Rally Rasic, one of my closest friends today. You know, he was my coach hero. I had a little figure when we played table soccer, and I had his name on the back. And now he's coming. He slept with his wife in our sleeping room, and we went to Hanover around for holidays. This is how far you can go with a hobby, wow, with a passion.
Yes. So this is I love this story because, and to me, it's no doubt why you're in the Hall of Fame. To me, it makes perfect sense, and you should be. And it's well deserved. Okay, the amount of passion that if we had 1% of your passion in each boy, we will definitely qualify for a World Cup. So this is something that we need to share. That with passion, you can accomplish anything in life. You can become best friends with a coach who coached our first World Cup squad, and is your testimony to this. And it makes me really warm in here, right? So I want to thank you for your hobby. I want to thank you for your passion. But the story is only getting started. The story is still only getting started. So you've gone backwards, okay? So previous to the 74 World Cup, you've also gotten to know other Socceroos. So you've rewound the clock, the boys who played before that 74 team, and gotten to know many people prior to the 74 team. So tell me about some of those relationships.
You know, very close friend. Another one is Ronnie Lord, who was the goalkeeper from Sydney Prague. He was playing for the Olympic Games in 1956. A fantastic guy. I went always when I'm down under to his place, and also with my wife. She's traveled. She knows them all too. No? So she knows who is Peter Wilson, Ronnie Lord, and Ati Aboni, and we met them together, and also the families. But Australia had fantastic players. You know, when we talk about Rick Date, Artie Quill, fantastic players. And the problem is because they are not professional. They have to work. And I think if those players are today under the same training facilities, and the how good or how far can they go? Yeah. So also before 74, look at the World Cup for the 1970, when they played all these matches in Rhodesia and Israel, and look at the players like Johnny Warren, Johnny Watkins, Rutherford, and Marnock, all these old players, fantastic guys. And so it's a little bit unfair that Australia, for me, it was good. 1974 in Germany, 32 years a break, painful break. You know, all the games against Iran and this, and then the next World Cup again in Germany. This is something special. But all the good players missed World Cups, and we had good teams. Look at the team who played against Argentina with Widmar, with Ivanovic, with Alex Tobin, and the Kosmina, Marshall Soper, all these players before, Alan Davidson, and so fantastic players. They missed World Cups, and we always had good teams in Australia. The problem is they never had the chance to play under real professional circumstances.
So I've had the opportunity to speak to a few of the Socceroos, and we were talking about this with Alan Hunter just the other day. Imagine if we could afford to have picked 22 boys, okay, in any given year, and say, listen, we're just going to make those boys professional. And I'm sure they would have done it for, a basic wage. Not necessarily, didn't have to be $100,000, just enough to feed their families and put bread on the table, I'm sure they would have done it as a pleasure. What could have we achieved with a full-time setup? I think we would have made every World Cup. I honestly believe that. We could have, because what these boys did is they worked all day and they'd play for their club team 3 times a week and a game on the weekend, and then have to be shuffled off to play for the Socceroos. And many times, I mean, think about, I was speaking about that 88 game against Argentina when we banged 4 past them. Okay, we're talking about World Cup stars, and we demolished them. Not just it wasn't just by a lucky goal. It was a slaughter. Okay, part-time boys giving the team, the best team, arguably in the world, 4. Okay, this is not, and it's not that we've done it once. We've done this a couple of times. Okay, so imagine.
Maybe not one time. It was in '81 because they had a German coach, Rudi Guttendorf.
Yeah. So
maybe you are too young for this, but he was a close friend of mine, Rudi Guttendorf. Okay. He died last year, okay. And many times we talked. I always told him he destroyed this team in those times. His vision was to play with young players, all Australian-born, but it was too early, and he made many mistakes. And he was a showman. Okay. So he destroyed my Australian team in those years around '81.
Yeah. So I think but if you look at, let's say, the teams in the '80s, we also had a tough qualification bout. The one good thing that's happened by being part of Asia having more spots for us to be able to qualify. Since that reshuffle, and that was political, because if you look at our qualification path previous, right, we had to win Oceania and then play somebody world class as well, right? That's tough. It's not easy. And even how we made the 2006 World Cup, right? That was a tough Uruguayan side, right? A very, very tough Uruguayan side.
Yes.
And we call our 2016, the golden generation, all first class. All the boys in the 2006 squad are, good quality. And it goes to show, if it wasn't for that silly, penalty or half penalty, maybe we would have even gone further, right? So this is obviously a big thing, but, it was never easy for us Australians to qualify. It was always difficult. And there were times there where, maybe we let ourselves down, and New Zealand qualified because they also had quality sides too. But, I think generally we've always had good Socceroo sides, and we always had Socceroo spirit. This is one thing, if I look at every generation of Socceroo teams, the Aussie spirit is always there. Fight, work hard for 90 minutes, give you 100%, and then we'll see if we can score. And you think about that first game against the Japan in 2006. We had a bit of luck in that game too. A bit of unlucky, and then the luck turned. Obviously, Gus Hiddink had a master stroke too. Bringing on Timmy late and completely changed the game. You were there in 2006 again in Germany. Yeah, you were part of the call it the FFA contingent. You were doing some hosting. Tell us about your role in 2006.
That was when I was in Melbourne when they qualified, that November night, of course. And then there was, I know they are coming to Germany again, and I was talking about where they are staying, which hotel, which area, which part. And they went far away from Hanover, 500-600 kilometers away down this Öhringen, the small town, and said, oh, this is too far for me. And I wrote to the city manager and said, I told them who I am. And it was like a fighter. They called me the next day and said, we sent you a car, we picked you up, please come down. We need your help because we know nothing about the Australians. And that was another fairy tale, amazing story for me, because I later had an exhibition in this town with all my stuff, over 5,000 people came. The TV stations from Asia, from England, United States there. The opening FFA came, all players came, and it was fantastic. And together with, I was the FIFA ambassador here in Germany for the Australian team.
Mm-hmm.
And FFA and FIFA, they gave me a free entry to all games, to all 48 games, from the first to the final, and free traveling on train.
Wow.
And I went many weeks down to this place to stay there, and it was free. I don't want to say because it's free, but it's a peak for me because they are coming to me, and I got a ticket, free access or entry to all places. I went to all this. Players recognized me. Some of them said, "Oh, you are Andre." Yes. It was fantastic, and I saw all the fans and everything. I went to the games, of course.
Yeah.
It was a dream, and I was just traveling. But that night, what you mentioned against Italy, I went back from Kaiserslautern that night. I think I arrived at 4 o'clock in the morning here in Hanover. I had a shower, and during that shower, I recognized this dream is over. All my friends will leave tomorrow. All the team will leave tomorrow. And it was a shocking result because of this penalty. And I was standing here.
Yeah.
And I start to cry. I was sitting here. I never forget that. I was crying because, you know, the dream was over. Yeah. But it was a fantastic dream.
Yeah. So, so we all cried.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is football.
But I'm still saying, I know I'm not making always friends, but I'm still saying that was not a penalty.
Yeah,
you can say what
it
wasn't
you want. A penalty. They robbed us. They robbed us, of course. You know what? Maybe Lucas shouldn't have slid. Maybe he should have stood tall. Maybe if whatever, you know, this in a split moment of a football game, you can't blame him because I thought he was going to win the ball. But to me, it wasn't a penalty. If I was, but I understand what. Sorry.
It was the same referee. It was the same referee from the Uruguay game.
Yeah.
When we qualified, the same referee. And after the World Cup, there was a friendly game here in Hanover between Spain and Germany. And the referee came here to Hanover. And the stadium was full of Spanish and German fans with flags. And I was the only one with the Australian flag. And I was the whole game whistling to the referee because everyone was thinking, what an idiot with an Australian flag here. But this was my, revenge. So.
Yeah, protest. So,
yes.
You've also done a bit of work, obviously documenting our history, right? So so for those of you who don't know, just Google Andre's name. You know, he's documented a lot of his early stuff online. So all you need to do is type in Andre's name and into Google, and he's put a lot of his early work up. Obviously, there's a lot of work, a lot of history that you've yet to put up, and we thank you for your efforts of documenting the Socceroos, both past and present. And we know how much work that is, but you do this as outside of ours. You're not paid by anybody. You do this because you love documentation. But all this documentation enables us to record our history. Okay, so I want to thank you because one day my children are going to be able to look this up. Because today, they're interested in Mbappe and Ronaldo and Messi, right? Because they're obviously the stars that they play with on FIFA. But, as they grow older, I'm sure they'll come to appreciate who the Socceroos are that represent us. And that will form part of their history, just like I am now, and look back and appreciate all the boys that played for the Socceroos now that I'm in my 40s, right? So this is, I think this is a fantastic thing. Our history is very important, and you've worked very hard to document that history. So tell us, what is it that we can do to help?
You have a lot of people who are doing the work like this. There's a lot of books and people, Andrew Howe, Greg Stock, and many people who are collecting things about their history. Old players also, or from, and there's a lot of stuff lying around in some places in Australia, and you have to get to put this together. And there's not a lot of trusting in from some, because when I talk to some old players and said, you have to give this to, I don't want to say the names, but they said, yeah, we gave some things, but never got it back. It's lost. So it's not easy to give your own past to other people, and you need insurance, or you need maybe a contract that you will get it back one day. But you have to start to collect. Now it's much easier. You know, I wrote what I said to every country on the world to get some pieces together. And but today, if you search hours or years, and just the second you put it on the internet, it's gone for everyone. It's good. But on the other side, you will see it the next day in maybe in newspapers. That was many times. We found this, we found this. And I said, oh, come on, that's not true. I searched 30 years for this little clip. And now I gave it to you. And the next day it's, so, but this is life. But you have to keep and get all this old stuff together. And it's more important, the old things, than the new things.
Yeah. So we need some kind of museum. What do you think?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. It's not too late, but it's much, but I'm surprised that you still have no museum. I know that some people are now working on it, and it's closer than ever, but I am talking about a museum with some other people since around 20 years. And at the start, they had no idea, because what we need for a museum is also the things from today. Where is the shirt, maybe? Where are the pennants from the first World Cup? Where are all the cups from winning the Oceania Cup and some other things? Where is the shirt from Timmy Cahill when he made his 100th appearance for Australia? Where are the boots from John Aloisi when he scored against Uruguay? All these are important things you have to keep now, today, or short after the moment. If you start later, maybe it's too late.
Yeah.
And everything what you start now is important for the future.
Yeah.
And so the history starts today.
So, I mean, this is difficult. You know, we're talking about, we're having this conversation. We're in the middle of COVID. It's in the off season. You know, we've had a change of board in the FFA, new people. So, you know, we're right in the middle of the A-League, the owners, pay dispute, federation. So I know it's a difficult time, right? There's not a lot of money in football. And so when you think about these big projects, these are multi-million-dollar projects, let's be honest. Okay, so this is not easy. You know, setting up a museum is not easy. This is millions of dollars. But if we don't have a home for these artifacts, then we can't complain about not keeping them. It's as simple as that. We need a home, right? And so we need to think about who is the custodian of our history, our footballing history, okay? Does it rely on Andre Krueger and John Aloisi to keep, you know, does it rely on individuals to keep this together? Or can we together as a footballing community come up with an idea? And I think it needs to start from the top down. And so I'm sorry, but I put this squarely at the feet of the FFA. So whoever is in the FFA, and if you're listening to this, this is something that you need to put on the agenda. And we need to start thinking about it. So I haven't got the answers. I'm not saying I've got the answers. I've just got the question. But this is something that we need a place to at least archive, at the very least archive these artifacts. You know, even if we're not going to put them on show, that we have an archive to actually maintain this archive. And you know that it's going to be at the head of the FFA, and it becomes a record of history under the federation, okay? To me, that is the most logical place. And if you look at other places around the world, like the German FA, tell me, Andre, you're in Germany. What do the German FA do for history in Germany?
Our history is one of the biggest things. Yeah, and we Germans are perfect in doing things like that. We always had a museum, always, but we, since, I don't know exactly, since a couple of years, we have a new one, a very new building. And this year I wanted to go with rally. We got an invitation from the German Football Federation, but yeah, because, you know, this is amazing. You start in the past, because that was always the question. I had my first talking about the museum around 2001 when I went to FFA, and with all respect, what they asked, where is your history room? And they had a room with some boxes and everything was inside. And later, the years, someone told me, so every time if someone went away, lost his job or moved, or he put something away. So of course you need some place where you collect it, and the main question they always said, if you make a museum, how much money we can make. And maybe if it's good to visit, you can make some money, but this is not the important thing. You have to keep your history. This is, I'm not sure that you can make the big money, yet you spend $1 million and get 2 back. No. And this is different in Germany. The museum is unbelievable. It's emotional. Also, if you are not a football fan, you will cry. If you pass these rooms, you will cry. You are in the middle of video shows and artifacts and something. It's not just boxes with a shirt, a photo, and a story, and it's boring after a half hour to read this. Now you are inside of this, and you're standing in the room. You feel that there's the rain coming down on a video, and you're on the middle of the field, and you see the players running around, and then the original sound, maybe from the goal against Uruguay, and you're standing there, and the tears are going because it's coming back from your life. It's not easy to make, but you need just the right people and a lot of money.
So the other thing, maybe an idea is, like, we're building all these, we're getting government funding to build stadiums. So it's not the first time. Like, you know, Western Sydney Wanderers have just built a brand new stadium, state-of-the-art stadium, and training facilities. You know, now Western United in Melbourne have got plans to build a brand new stadium out west. So there are these purpose-built stadiums. So if you think about a stadium, there's, you know, the stadium, you've got the pitch in the middle and you've got the stadium. There's a lot of call it storage room area that maybe on one of the wings of the stadium we could house a museum. Okay, and to me it might make sense that as part of the build of a purpose-built stadium, we house a museum. Because the only other way is you go to the government and say, listen, I want to house a floor or a room, a big room, in one of your national galleries or that. And then we're competing against, you know, Aussie Rules or some other sport. So I think some sports do this very well. Like AFL has got a fantastic immersion experience. They respect their history very well. And we need to take a leaf out of that code. This is Aussie Rules football with the egg ball. To copy some of what they're doing and try and do it on a smaller scale, but away. And I don't think it's necessarily revenue generating, but it doesn't necessarily always need to be a loss leader, right? So we can, I think people, if they're going to a game at a brand new stadium in Sydney or Melbourne, or, you know, obviously we'd only have one, this could be part of the football experience. You go to a game and then afterwards you go to the museum, or before the game you go to the museum. This is logical. And we also need a place where we have these types of functions instead of paying for, what do you call it? You know, to go to Crown Casino or Star City to have a big function, right? Maybe we can have these smaller functions in our own home, right? But this is where we need to start thinking outside the box. And just an idea. So I'll put it out there. It's documented now. I said it. We need a home. We need a museum. I know I'm 20 years after your idea. I know it's 20. Today's the 22nd of October, 2020, and it's 20 years after you first wrote. But, you know, better late than never.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But there was always the question when you say it will be maybe in Sydney, Melbourne is saying, why not here? And then they said, okay, we put it to Canberra because it's the capital. So then it's saying maybe in Western Sydney, but then it's saying, oh, maybe Apia is building a new one, going to Apia. But maybe South Melbourne said, we need it. So that's the moment when we start. For example, here in Germany, the captain of the World Cup team 1954, Fritz Walter, died a couple of years ago. And he had a big collection, private collection of his football time. And they want to sell it piece by piece on the internet for a good money. And then they said, the football fans said, no, then it's lost on 100 places, different places. We have to keep this together, but we can't pay 200,000 euro. And so it was in the newspaper, and a company said, okay, we buy it. And they paid 200,000, and now they have it, and said, look, if we need to find a right place, we put it in the Fritz Walter Museum for the public. So the big company is always spending money. And you have in Australia, you have some people with multi-million-dollar people. Just give a little bit away as from the money and say, come on, we make something. Because it's a history, not only from the game, it's a history of Australia. So you need this. You need this.
Yeah, so I understand where you go, but we need to unify. So we can't have the politics of saying, okay, Canberra, Sydney, Melbourne, we need to, wherever it is, I don't care where it is, because wherever it is, I'm going to go, I'm going to visit it, okay? So if I'm traveling for football or work, I'm going to go visit the museum, okay? Obviously, we won't go every day, but like any museum, you go once, you then take your children, it's an experience. And then everybody has to be able to go there if they choose. But we can't have, we need to first make a decision that we're going to have one. Once you make a decision you're going to have one, then you can decide where and then in what format. But first you need the declaration to say, we're going to have a museum, okay? We're going to have one, okay? Wherever it is, Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra, Adelaide, Brisbane, Perth, I don't care. And then this is a job of a lobbyist. Simple, right? It's a job of, and I think I put it squarely at the FFA to take this on board, and to make, whether we seek private funding or joint government. I mean, obviously there need to be feasibilities, but at the very least we need an archiving. It doesn't cost that much to put things properly in storage to have the collection. And so it doesn't go missing. That's the important thing, because once we lose these artifacts, then it's gone forever. So we've said enough about that. So tell me about the relationships that you're still in touch with today. Who, this year, which Socceroos do you still speak with?
Just, of course, now just telephone. I talk to Ronnie Lord, to Manfred Schäfer, to Ati Aboni, Peter Wilson, Rasic a few times. We have regular telephone calls, and Max Tolson. There are a lot of George Harris. So I have the numbers, and everyone is happy when I call, because they love to talk about the old days. And and at the beginning they said, Andre, I played in 1972 for St. George, and now they know they don't have to tell me this, because I know they played which year for which club and what they won, and so and for me it's amazing, because I have many years no one to talk about Australian football. So up to 2000 or so, no one was interested here, so I can't tell people every time again the story. I was in many newspapers, also on German TV and all this, but it's just the crazy German who is collecting something. He's living here between Holland, England, Poland, France, Italy, fantastic football countries in Germany, and he's for Australia. In 2015, Australia played here against Germany in Kaiserslautern, and I was there, and I got a shirt from Ange Postecoglou, Australian shirt, the team side, and from Jogi Löw from the German side. So it was the Asian champion against the world champion. But I will give this away for shirt from 1922 or from one of the old players. You know, the past is always. In 2001, when I was in Australia, I watched Australia. It was the first time they played Uruguay in Melbourne, and FFA said it was just an idea. Are you interested to fly with the team to Uruguay for the? I said yes, but during the same time there is a Socceroo '74 reunion. I can't miss that. So you see, these old boys standing much higher for me than because they are close friends.
Yeah.
You know, when I come inside and see them all, and this is fantastic.
Yeah. So
that changed what I said. They changed my life totally. It's everything in my life has to do something with Australia, and I'm still in Hanover now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you've born friendships with a lot of the first World Cup squad. Who are some of the newer players that you've taken a liking to? So some of the boys in the last, let's say, call it since 2006. Have you warmed to any of the boys that since 2006 till today?
Not so close. Like, of course, I talked to Mikhail and some other players, but it's not so close like the old players. You know, it's of course I'm watching now, but the games, but it's not so like years before. Not with that kind of passion. Yeah. It's still Australia is in front. It's the first still. Also, if they play Germany, but I'm more with. Of course, Alex Tobin, John Kosmina, and Charlie Jankos, yeah.
So, did you just say if Australia is playing Germany, that you're barracking for Australia? Is that what you just said?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I love it.
I think about a second.
I love it.
One of my best friends in Australia, Mark Bowman, he's from Sydney, he said years ago, they asked him, why is your friend so fascinated about Australia? He said, the stork who's bringing the babies to Australia lost Andre over Germany. So when he fell down in Hanover. So no, my heart is always Australian, but I can't change it what's happened on the field. Doesn't matter if I'm for Germany or my heart is always beating for Australia in any kind and any sport. And yeah, this is, and it's for me, it's an unbelievable moment to coming back to Australia to see these people. And I never lived there. So many ask why you're not living in Australia. I don't know. One of my biggest wish will be to have an Australian passport. That's a dream. Not to live there, not to get some pension or money, just to say, look, I'm Australian. Not only my heart, I'm Australian. I love this country. I love the people, and yeah. This is all because of the team.
This is beautiful. What you just said there was beautiful. Can I say, if to me, sir, you don't need an Australian passport. You are an Aussie.
Thank you. Yeah.
And 10 times over. And 10 times over. So this is very, very special. So what advice do you have for us Australians in support for our Socceroos, sir? Because I want you to give us something, some advice, please.
For the football. Yeah. You know, since 2006, every World Cup, your team is going to a World Cup qualification. It's not easy, but and so it's a kind of normal. When I talk to some people, they said, we need now the World Cup in Australia. It will come one day. We have to win the World Cup because we are now 10 times playing. It's difficult. Other countries want to win too. You have to support your team. You have to stand behind your team. Everything is difficult, and especially the situation in Australia. You see still the good players going to Europe because the money is more and bigger question than ever. support your team, go to your team. If they lose, if they are at the last place in the league, still support them. The boys always giving the best. Stand behind your country. And if you think what's happened now, everything is built on the foundation of the past. Never forget what's happened in the past. All what's today is on the foundation of the history. So look back in your history, see what happened there, and learn from the history and respect the history and never forget them. And then the future will no problem for the next generation.
Yeah, this is words of wisdom, because very any family, any family tree, a family has a history. The Socceroos also have a history. And we need to honor it, respect it, and support it. And these are very, very nice words of wisdom. It's been an absolute honor, Andre Krueger, all the way from Hanover, Germany. To me, sir, you are an Aussie, okay? And I'm not, so you might have been born in Germany, but in my books, you're more Aussie than most of us over here. So thank you so much for your support and your hobby that turned into a passion, that is turned into one of the most amazing stories in football. It's been an absolute honor to have met you and to have had this conversation and to record this today.
Thank you very much. It was fantastic to talk with you and about the past and everything. Thank you very much. And yes, I still have some tears in my eyes for your words. Thank you very much.
No, it's very, very special. So I hope everybody else, I normally don't get emotional, but today I did. So thank you, Andre. It's been an honor. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Best wishes and stay healthy and take care. All the best to my lovely country.